The advancement of GenAI in recent times has led to internal expectations for customer service and experienced leaders to deploy a technology, with Gartner reporting that 60% of leaders are under pressure from other leaders in their enterprise to adopt GenAI. However, the same study revealed that 88% of customers are not okay with it. They had major concerns about AI, while 64% stated that they would prefer companies not to use AI for their customer service. This contrast can be easily explained by the lack of empathy and absence of human sentiments that machines are perceived to be associated with. But where there is a will, there is a way. Organizations are now investing in innovative tech and exploring ideas that can help them use Gen AI and enhance the human AI interactions for transforming customer experience. Let's discover how with our next speaker, Aditya Garg. In the 9-year stint of his career, which includes 3 years with Thoughtworks, Aditya has worked as a data product analyst and product manager, and also dabbled across industries such as e-commerce, education tech, fintech, consulting. With 4 years of experience in data and AI, he is recently working with an NBFC client as a PM and BA for AI solutions across multiple domains for empowering users and processes with optimizations. With expertise in product management and business analysis, he has presented product management sessions in communities and also conducted GenAI workshops for BAs and PMs. He currently works with Pyramid Finance as a project manager with his focus area in fintech and GenAI. I believe you're as excited as me to hear about learning from him on this topic, transforming resistance, making AI, GenAI adoption better. Without further delay, I invite Aditya to take over.
Thanks a lot, Nidhi. And thanks everyone for joining on a weekend. This is like super wonderful to see so many Antu people on the call. I'll quickly start. I'll share my screen, considering it's a quick talk on this. I think Nidhi has already given a good introduction. So yeah, Aditya here. And today we are having a lightning talk about how GenAI adoption can be better. In the last session, you have seen multiple instances where it was mentioned like how adoption is becoming a challenge, and that is where we just see quickly on how this can be improved. I'll try to make the initial slides very quickly and try to focus on the last slide, which is more on the solution, because it's a lightning talk and that's what we are all looking forward to. But why this is a problem? I think Nidhi also mentioned some stats. Like 80% of the AI projects actually is a failure. And adoption maybe is like one of the major reasons. Now, I would say like need not believe this number, need not believe the HBR number, the source that it's coming from. But even in our premises, if we see the talk or the discussions around AI, what we listen and what we see is way too different. So I'm not going with the number. Let's ignore the 80%. But we do see there's a gap. We are talking a lot about AI, but nobody's talking about or nobody's doing AI, or they might be doing AI, but that's not their business as usual. So that is where we see the gap, and adoption is definitely something which we can see is a considerable problem. So where quick walkthrough on how do we reach adoption. So this is like a classic AI product cycle. It starts with identification of the use case. You see, okay, is there a feasibility? Sorry, not a feasibility, identification. Is there a problem that exists? And can AI solve the problem? Exactly like Maslow's law. You just cannot start hammering AI into everything. You identify it's an AI problem, and then you start picking it and seeing the feasibility of it. So you see, can it be feasible? Is it really needed? You might need a prototype and so on. Once it's done, you go to the development stage, which is development of the solution of the AI that you have. You start seeing which model to pick, how do we tweak it, prompting and so on. Move to the evaluation of it. That is it worthy? We start seeing the feedback. We ask people, there are multiple UATs and so on. and then we lead to the adoption stage. In this session, we are talking about the last, which is the adoption stage. Cool. So, what are the challenges when we say that adoption is a problem? So, primarily, um, one is overhyped expectations versus reality. Like I mentioned in the initial slide, um, we are talking a lot about AI, but we have to consider, we have to acknowledge that um, when there's an emerging tech that's coming in, the discussions are at this level, but we have to be practical that it grows gradually. So I'm not saying it's not impossible. It definitely is not. But we have to be practical that it grows gradually. It takes steps, and then we have to accept and acknowledge it. But it becomes a challenge in adoption. Second is trust. Um, like people who are using, they do face challenges. Now, trust can be in terms of like, is this thing right? Is this thing reliable? Is it dependable? Is it like a competitor to my work or my job, or probably something around that security? It definitely hampers their adoption. Third is the skill gap. Emerging tech. People are still having some skill set. We need to upskill people, and we do not see so many people who are into the AI who can do fast experimentation, development, and so on. It slows down the process of development and hence adoption. And last is the integration complexity. Um, we do have seen in not just AI, but in any other, even for that matter, like you introduce product management, you introduce new software into any existing legacy software or system. This is a problem. And AI, it becomes further because there are more layers, there are more security threats, and so on. So hence, it slows down the adoption. All right. So coming to what we can do about this particular issues, some of the solutions that I just brainstormed, and also that we have actually seen in our live projects that currently we are working on. I'll go through this and then I'll share my learnings that we have seen on field. First, let's start building the trust. So this is solution is something which is super user empathy. I mean, at least from my experience of product management, I've seen that particular thought really helps. For the user, the trust can be primarily on three areas. What is the solution, the developer, and the process? It is like, um, is this thing good for me? Is this development being done by the person, by the team, is actually for me? Are they thinking good for me? Is it really helpful? Is this process is something which is reliable and I can trust on it? So that's something which is an issue, and hence we have to build that trust with the users. See, we have to understand that in our ecosystem, we probably might be coding. We probably might be in our job doing some management or decision making things. But we do still see AI as a little bit threat. It might be slight, but it is still a threat. Now consider for people who are actually on the field, whose job is the content creation, whose job is to talk to people, support people. They see this as a direct threat because AI is actually doing it the complete way. Like, or if not 100%, but we have seen 70 to 80% it is reaching, not decision making, but at least the generation of it. Now, the person who is actually doing it, consider his or her life when they are being asked that, can you use this AI solution? Will you use it? I think you might be really skeptic unless you have super good rewards to it. Hence, that becomes a very big threat in certain use cases. It will increase as AI scales up, takes it more power. Um, it might start coding, or it actually has. So, but that's a different thing. But yeah, that is something which we have to deal, and that is where the trust has to be built up. How is this thing can be achieved? In one of the ways is keep users in loop. Like when you're developing something, do not just take it, make it, and then show to the users. Do not make it as a black box. GenAI itself is currently a good amount of black box. Let's not create the process also a black box for the users. So when you're creating, keep them in the loop. Um, when you're building, ask them the questions. In our project, we have done both the things. We have done like direct showcase to the users, and then we got the feedback, and it just increased the number of process of experimentation, process, and development. And in certain use cases, we actually looped in users from day one, and hence that becomes super helpful. They feel that this is not our product. When I say our product, we being the developers, they actually feel this is the team's product. And when you make them feel this is the team product, they have this trust on the solution, they have the trust on the developer, and they have the trust on the process. So keep users in the loop when you're creating from day one. It really also helps you to understand the problem that they're facing. We have so many assumptions. We do have seen so many quotes about user doesn't know the problem and so on. It is also a fact, but let's not ignore the fact that we also might ignore some very basic problems. Cross-functional collaboration is it is about build things right and build the right things actually. So um, cross collaboration is about collaborating the business and the tech very closely, because we might create something which is very basic. The business knows what is the problem, and this is kind of inclined with what is the second point that I mentioned. But this is more of collaborative, where we are talking to them, where we are asking the problem. And when I say business, let's not say only the business we are considering about. We are also considering the end users who are actually using this. So this becomes a very collaborative process when we are creating any development of the AI solution. And then the next is pilot success. Start small, low hanging fruits, which is actually kind of a like a very go-to word in PM thing, but it's right. I mean, less efforts, high impact. You start small, you start showing your success, and it also connects with the first point, which is trust. Because once you start showing your success, it builds trust in the users that okay, this thing is something which is actually good, and it starts giving you also confidence and validation that you are doing right, you're handling the right problem, and um, it gives you feedback on is this thing going in the right direction, validation of the models, prompt tuning that you're doing, the approach that you have taken, and so on. And then there are so many other things which is on operational as well, ethical guardrails and so on. So pilot success is a very good step as you create. It leads to good solution and hence a good adoption. Okay, now also a solution which is more towards the user side, no friction accessibility. So um, I mean, this is something which is really helpful. It might you might have experiences unintentionally as well. Um, when you're creating a solution which is part of the regular process of the user, they can adapt it easily. In one of the recent projects in our fintech, we created a solution for the underwriters um, where they approve the loan and verify the loan. Now, we created a separate URL. So for the underwriters, we could see a difference. They have their own portal where they are doing their work regularly, seeing the documents and so on. But then they have to go to the AI Wala URL separately and then see summarization and insights that's being generated and then come back to the portal. So that gap, that delta that you see is actually a friction for them to push that I have to go to the separate URL. Very good example is like at least what I've seen and you might have also seen is Grammarly. They are using AI somewhere, but perfect example of how no friction accessibility is really helpful. Like for me, when I started using Grammarly, I was little skeptic because I just thought it might impact my grammar skills and correcting my spell checks and so on. But now I'm actually regularly using it because it is just there where I'm writing. It is no friction accessibility. So has it impacted my grammar? I'm not sure, but it does definitely have made me lazy to correct my spells. But I have adopted it. So that's how this no friction accessibility really helps you. Um, Build reusable assets. So when you're creating something, try to build which is reusable. Reason being, you might have multiple iterations. Create platforms. Create something which is not just very much particular to one use case, but it can be customized. configurable in multiple use cases. Because you might fail, you might have multiple use cases, you might have many small POCs that you might have to do. So if you have these reusable assets, your churn of experimentation becomes very fast. You fail fast, you success fast, more use cases goes into the market, more adoption, because you can start seeing people using it. So it really helps to churn out more users, more use cases, if you have this reusable assets. Also, it really becomes an efficient process of using the resources that you have, for creating any of the AI solution. All right, upskilling of teams. So upskilling is actually on the both sides. One, um, upskilling your developers, your team who are developing this. Definitely, it helps because you're creating better skills to create the AI solution. But upskilling is also on the user side. One example that I share is when we were creating a chatbot for the telesales, people who are doing it over the call, supporting the end users, we saw users, we just created a chatbot and then gave them for the pilot testing. Um, we saw users writing like no password, enter. No loan interest or less loan interest, enter. So the classic example that they are receiving this as a problem for the end users that my password is not working. So what is the problem? No password, and hence they enter no password. Now in a RAG chatbot, no password might give you a correct answer, but it is way too vague of an input for the chatbot to give a precise answer. So what we could see is we need to even create awareness among the users who are adopting that how to use that particular chatbot. You need to give uh, context to them, and that's what we did. We started creating some sessions or maybe some onboarding documents that how do you use this chatbot in more efficient way so that your efficiency increases, you get better answers. So upskilling is on the both sides. And feedback loops. I mean, uh, no AI or no solution is good unless you start seeing the feedback. Um, so start having the feedback from day one. There are multiple feedback. We had seen like so many things that we miss, and from the user empathy or from the user feedback, we could start seeing that people are using it in a different way altogether. Like I mentioned, this no password thing. So feedback loops really helps you to understand um, what they are actually looking for. Is there something which you have created some wrong assumptions? You improve on the feedbacks, and then hence it really helps you in your adoption. So overall, these are the solutions that we have picked up. Few of the things which I have also written it down from my learnings. I would just like start listing them down, and it might overlap from few of these. So pilot. So in our project, we did low hanging fruits. We started very small so that users can see that okay, this is something which we can use in. They start seeing things live, and hence they can start adopting it. So that is something which we also have tried, that we started very small, maybe something which is like a very small set of users, but start putting out things in the crowd. Onboarding doc, like I mentioned, upskilling of not just the team of developers, but also the end users. Upskill them, aware them, create a sessions for them, create document for them, let them know how do we use this particular AI solution. Friction is also that we did. I shared an example like we what we did end of the day in the underwriter thing that I was mentioning. Um, there was a separate URL and we could see a friction. So now we have an integrated solution. We have created a one more additional tab in their particular portal, which now they can access directly, which is hence part of the BOW, which is the business as usual process that you're doing. They can see that AI thing in that particular process, and hence we could see a better adoption of that. Business as end users check. Again, it's not just talking to the business or the sales team. It is to talk to the end users also who will be actually using your AI solution. So do have that thing in your thought process. Self-service to test. Another example of not sure where it will actually land up. Maybe reusable assets or okay, let it be. So self-service to test. The thought is that when you are trying to create more and more use cases, there will be a time that you will have so many use cases on the time on your plate, and there will be teams approaching you that we have this small RAG solution or document or AI problem or a problem. Can you solve it? But you will be having your bandwidth issues. So why not we create something like which is a self-service portal where people can actually test their solutions, and that's what we have tried doing in um, that we started creating some self-service portal which is self-service chatbot where you can put on your documents, maybe create some basic persona through the prompting which is just plain English, and start experimenting that is your chatbot or is your problem being solved with that particular thing. Once you create a self-service, you empower people to start experimenting. Uh, Either two things will happen. One, either that actually becomes a solution to them, or they get to know that this is not the right way, and maybe some changes are needed, and then they will come back and test it again. So more churn but less load on the team because you have empowered team the organization with a self-service portal. So that we have done in one of the recent projects in the fintech. Internal employees. So when I said keep small, pilot success, low hanging fruit. So there might be chances that you are very skeptic about going to the external users. So why not start creating solutions for internal users first? It really helps you to understand, learn with the team, and foremost, the risk are low. And sorry, yeah. So foremost is the risk are low, and you start understanding and learning from the internal teams itself. So that's what we have also done. We started creating solutions for HR, the telesales, the credit team, and so on. Um, that's where we have also started learning, and now we are planning to move to the external users through all those learnings that we have done. And the last is security, easy, less critical docs. Start with something which is not very high risk. So let's say even if you're talking about internal users, but there might be some solutions which is some cases where the trade-off is very less. In case you fail, the stakes are not so high. So something which is kind of public. For example, in one of the solutions, we started with using public documents, and you can use it for analyzing or getting insights of the competitors. So rather than you're doing a competitive research or market research, you can go to this particular chatbot probably or a dashboard, and it will give you summarizations of your questions which you have shared for like quarterly results and so on. So the stakes are very low, but the impact might be very high because you are creating something which is for the leads, the leadership team, and and the risk are low because in case something screws up, the documents are already public, so no problem in something coming up wrong or the security or the leak of the documents. So these are some of the ways where you can adopt initially if you're in the very initial stage of the AI that can really help you in increasing the adoption and making users happy. And in the end, I always feel is like it's all about first principles, be it AI or be it anything for that matter. That if you're creating something which is solving a user problem, the user won't hesitate to take it. They just need to see that they are having and receiving the value, and this solution is trustworthy. So even if it is AI solution or just a mere VLOOKUP, but they will adopt it. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, please let me know.
Do we have any questions from anyone?
80% of the projects fail. Any idea of total number of AI project surveys in this report? So yeah, I mean, in the sheet itself, I've mentioned that it is the source from HBR, but my point was we need not go with the number, but the point is that um, we can see that the amount of discussions that's happening and the amount of adoption the people are using in your vicinity, it's way too like there's a delta in between that. So yeah, no idea about the total number of AI solutions on that report.
Thanks, Aditya. Any other questions from anyone in the room or online? We have one question.
Yeah.
Hey Aditya, hi. So you spoke about the workflow, right? Integrating these applications, let's say Grammarly, which adds into your value chain directly. For example, now if you see Facebook, right, they have their own Meta, Chat GPT sort of. Then Flipkart has come with their own Flippy, okay. Though it's directly integrated with the app, I don't see user adoption over there. So you had cited few questions. What do you think from your point of view, the top two, right, which is actually resisting the adoption into this case?
Yep. Okay. So I think you're talking about the AI chatbot, that kind of a widget that these
Yeah.
organizations are
Correct.
using. Yeah. So the same thought actually also that we have done in one of the recent projects, and that is also we are also experimenting. But I'll tell you the reason that we have also picked it up. Um, bec- First, we do see it is not very much in the process of business as usual, honestly. um, because widget or the chatbot is something is which is not the part of the process of your, let's say, buying journey. If you're buying a mobile phone in the Flipkart, your buying journey actually doesn't include the widget. um, it might be a part of the buying journey when you see AI in the payment process, or actually you are using AI in the search. So that is where AI is being used. This is useful when you're trying to get the support. There is where it actually becomes a part of the process of your journey, where you're trying to get a support, and you might end up with that particular widget. And that is what the thought that we also had in our project, that um, it not, even if it is not business as usual, um, still okay. The reason that it is introduced is, first, it is very, very much configurable. You can create it, and then it can be pasted in different pages or different use cases that you have. Second, um, the ease of getting it onboarded rather than in the process. Because if it is in the process, it is a high risk that you might actually disturb the existing funnel. So if you create this might be a very well experiment that you want to try, a very good way you can learn from what the people are using, and then probably move into the existing funnel. So I believe like the purpose of this widget is to experiment, to learn from what users are actually asking the questions, and also um, might not impact the buying journey, but might impact the journey like support, or they have any questions and so on. So that is where a slight adoption, which is not up to the mark, might have when we're talking about this Amazon or Flipkart.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aditya. We have one more question. Probably this will be the last one we'll take for now. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a question regarding the failure of the AI product. So, what is the definition of failure, and how we can say that it failed? Did it fail because it was not able to um, solve the problem which it intended to, or people were not adopting it because the UI or UX were very difficult? Like, how can we say it failed? Or was there any problem while identifying the problem? It was not even relevant.
Sure. So I'm not going with that number of 80%, but in general, when we say AI product or AI solution failed, um, it actually um, turns down into what you define, that what was the success for you. So when you can, if you can only define your failure if you have defined what is the success for you. If you have defined your success as some North Star metric of moving a needle of probably conversion of some funnel, then that is something that if you have not reached is your failure. There can be instances where your success was just about people using it. Like probably out of 100%, if 50% people use it, I think that is my success. So it depends on what is your success definition, and hence your failure definition will be defined in. Like in our projects, we had some metrics where we targeted like the TAT, the turnaround time of maybe the underwriters or some sales people will reduce. So if it is getting reduced, that is the success for us. In few of the pilot of POCs, our success was, can this be made live and people can use it? If they are able to use it, I think we define success there itself. If not, then that's a failure for us. But um, that is where you define the failure. If you define the success, success might not be just one. I would actually say there are different milestones that you have. So if you reach a milestone one, I think you have reached the success. If not that, then that becomes a failure. So define your success well, create your milestones well, and then how you can define a failure accordingly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aditya. And also thank you for being a part of Converge G2. It was so good to have you back.